Alright guys, HyDra again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far as OpTic cement their status as the #1 seed so far in the Major 2 qualifiers, starting off 6-0 with some very impressive results over recent weeks. An interesting announcement comes out last night from OpTic, implying that something is going on with Shotzzy. Lots of reaction from Shotzzy, from others in the OpTic camp as to what this could potentially be. Is it a big announcement like we saw from Scump a couple of years ago? Is it more likely there's something else going on? Very well to throw into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Got a couple of things to start off with. Spart, of course, he had a great debut. His first series, he had a 1.4 for the loss. His second series is more like a 1.2, but for the win up against FaZe. A big result. We'll talk more about FaZe later on today. I wanted to start, though, here because JP, analyst for OpTic, came up with this. Now, unfortunately, this website that he's taken this from no longer exists. Well, the website exists, but the link doesn't work anymore. And I think there's a few things to say about that. First of all, these are some of the numbers from the Black Ops 3 World Championship all the way back in the day. So you've got to rewind a number of years. But this was how things were looking back then. Of course, it was Slasher and John and those guys that went on to win the tournament. They had a deep run, apathy and all that. So with JCap, so they played a lot of matches. Their KD is going to be low. It is what it is. Point is, these are the overall KDs, but also other figures as well on the screen. What was interesting that JP was pointing out here really were the accuracy figures. So FormaL, as good as he is, he on Black Ops 3 had a 0.25, so 25% accuracy, and that was considered very, very good. If you look up and down this list, Pristini was in a similar ballpark as well. Some of the other AR players, you know, Slasher 24%, Aqua 24%, some of the SMGs will be a bit different. Again, this is to some degree playstyle dependent because some players, you know, they like to go for wall bangs, they like to shoot an extra couple of bullets after they know the guy is dead just to make sure that they are, so that all affects the accuracy figure and all this. But the point is, you look at it on average and you'll find that the accuracy, and you guys will have found this playing these games back in the day, you know, your accuracy would be low 20s and probably, you know, possibly lower, but in that ballpark, you know, 20% accuracy was considered to be pretty reasonably good. Now, Black Ops 3 was a jetpack game. Okay, it's going to be harder to hit shots to an extent, but also the aim assist has changed over time. And even you go back to Black Ops 2, right? Like, the accuracy in that game was pretty similar. You're talking 20%, low 20s for even quality players. That was just the nature of the aim assist and the challenge of hitting shots back in the day. That has changed radically as time has gone on, and as JP says, next time you check accuracy in the scoreboard after an overload, compare it to see how much the gunplay has changed. So these were the averages, by the way, so we actually did some calculations. In Infinite Warfare, which is, I want to say, the game with like the weakest aim assist in certainly that era, it wasn't easy to hit shots in IW, to be fair, but there was a 22% pro average. That's your pro player, the best players on the planet, because back then, and this is the other point I was going to make, we had full API data. This existed on the website for a number, you know, for a good few years, and you could see all of the data because it would be ripped out of the game via the API and uploaded to the website. No longer a thing, right? Like when we are tracking stats on Breaking Point, we are doing so with some tools, but largely manually, right? It's like, hang on a second, lads. 10 years ago, we had the facilities to do this properly, and here we are all these years into the Call of Duty League when it franchised and it was meant to get super serious. None of that's happened. So we've taken a step back in multiple ways. I know that the league today is probably in as good of a spot as it's been as the COD League, I would argue. Maybe that'll change over time. People have different opinions on that. It obviously set us back plenty of years. But what we also don't have still is anything like this, where we can pull some of the stats from the game itself. So in Infinite Warfare, we could do this. There was a 22% pro average in that game. The World War II average was 22.5%. So, yeah, pretty expected numbers. You fast forward to today, I just ripped this screenshot because JP was mentioning Overload from the Den Overload that OpTic played yesterday against Surge, and I'm imagining this is a slight glitch or technical error with Mercules stats here. But you look across the board, they're in the 30s, right? Comfortably in the 30s, up to a 36% for abe, 33 across the board on OpTic. That is the standard number today. So have the pros got 50% better, going from 20% near enough to 30% accuracy over the last couple of years? No, obviously not. the game has got easier. And yeah, aim assist is weaker in this game than it has been before. And I also think that players are at fault to this to some extent because of the weapons they decide to use, right? The M15 or the Drazah do not miss. They're just the easy mode guns. And I find it very interesting that the pros not long ago were only hitting roughly 20% of their shots. Now they seem absolutely adamant that they have to use these easy mode guns in this title. The other thing, I guess, is that we used to have burst weapons. So you might fire a burst, connect on 3 of the 4 bullets, fire another burst and get the final shot, but, 3 of those rounds on the M8 would be wasted as a result. So that's maybe another factor here. But Dashy says, look, was I number 1 in Infinite Warfare World War II? You can tip it though, it's fine, right? So, yeah, anyway, FormaL replied and said, okay, was anyone particular shooting pretty well? And, well, he found the numbers here between Dashy and FormaL, who basically had the same stat. You could argue that FormaL stats are more impressive just because they were done over 10 times as many maps in Infinite Warfare because, of course, Dashy only played right to the end of the year. So, yes, FormaL says, bro, you were fried for that top 24 matchup, right? That's crazy. So I thought that was pretty funny, but there's a few different angles there to say on where Call of Duty currently is. But look, times have moved on, for good or for bad. OpTic have now won 11 overloads in a row. They've actually conceded on all of these, so there's been no clean sheets, as we might call it, but they just score more than their opponent scores, which is not a bad way to win. And it's interesting they've won 11 in a row just because, as we know, after Major 1, they changed the spawns to a certain extent. There's been lots of frustration from some of the players to that end, and even OpTic in some of their scrims, they didn't seem especially pleased about it. But it still seems to be working out pretty well for them so far. So 11 overloads in a row. They've now obviously won 6 series in a row since losing in the finals at Major 1. They've won all their online series. They were looking dominant at the Major. This is the best OpTic have looked in quite some time, and this is also pretty crazy. Since picking up Mercules, near enough half of their series have been 3-0 wins, which is an outrageous stat, really. Like, it's 45% of series they've played with Merc have been 3-0s. Like, not 45% that they've won, obviously that'd be bad. Of course, they also win some series 3-1 and 3-2, and they don't lose very many with Mercules, but yeah, they've had some just dominant performances, and like nearly half the time, it was the case for CleanX for some time, and even it was higher at some point, but it wasn't long ago where you looked at CleanX's overall tournaments attended, and he basically had a 50% chance to win it. Like, that was like his return rate from tournament. He had a way more chance than that of making the finals. But it was a talking point for some time. They're like, yeah, well, there's 50% chance Crim just wins this event, no matter the circumstances. It's not really how it works, but you know what I'm getting at anyway. And it's the same thing for OpTic right now. Based on the data, half the time they get a 3-0. Of course, it depends who they're playing against, but they're 6-0 in Stage 2. Again, among those 6 series, 3 of them have been 3-0s. They've come against Boston, Cloud9 and Surge. 18 in 4 map counts. They look not nailed on, but probably they looking good to be the number 1 seed anyway. And it is interesting because Shotzzy made it pretty clear going into this stage that, well, all we need to be really is just top 6. That guarantees that we make the bracket. At least we get to go to Birmingham unless you're 11th and 12th, which is not where OpTic currently find themselves. So they are smooth sailing in a good position. That's their 7th 3-0 sweep of the season already. That's the most of any team, which will not surprise you based on the stats that we just saw. Remarkably enough, Surge have now been swept 9 times, which is way more than anybody else. So something's got to give over there, but Huke's playing well, Dashy's playing well, Shotzzy and Merc are doing their thing. It's difficult to look past them right now. The numbers also, Dashy's crept above a 1. He's at a 1.01 overall. Huke's crept back to a 1.0. Merc is still the standout performer of the season, but I just think it's worth looking at some of the Slayer rating numbers, right? It's just very effective across the board with the amount of damage these guys are putting on the map. So there's a good reason to be concerned if you're anybody else. Their next game is FaZe, which will be really interesting based on what we saw the last couple of days and what we're going to talk about later today. Then Ravens, then Gentlemates, Falcons and Toronto. So actually, look, they've had their easy games really out the way. These final ones are going to be interesting. Will they finish as the number 1 seed? Will they finish undefeated? That remains to be seen. However, yesterday we had this that OpTic posted. News tomorrow. 2 p.m. Central, and we've got Shotzzy suited and booted. So this caused a lot of talk immediately. What's going on? What could this be? Is there a big announcement, right? Is Shotzzy going to say something that's going to shock the world? Shotzzy then quote tweeted with the broken heart emoji, which immediately relaxed me, because I was like, okay, you know, like if Shotzzy and the team are baiting around this, then probably it's nothing that serious. We'll find out in a few hours' time. Of course, the immediate reaction was, whoa, could it be over? Is Shotzzy going to say he's going to call it a day and make like an announcement about it? Look, even if he was going to do this, it would be a very confusing time to do it, right? You're halfway through the major 2 qualifiers. Scump famously did his retirement announcement before the season even started for Modern Warfare 2. He was like, this is my final year. I'm going to go out with a bang at the end of the season. Of course, as it turned out, he went out with a bang about a month later because the team went and like a complete shambles and exploded entirely. So that's what happened with Scump. Look, would it make sense for Shotzzy? I know that it's been a talking point mainly with regard to Dashy, only because he's the oldest player in the league, and after years of not achieving what he wanted, he finally got there, won the World Championships, won more events. So, you know, there's logic there to a degree, but look, Dashy's obviously still good enough to play, and Shotzzy, very much that is still true for as well. I mean, FormaL not long ago said that he thinks when Shotzzy retires, he'll go down as the greatest ever. He's obviously got a lot more left in the tank. The argument is, could he do, like, you know, TENS was only in Valorant 23, 24 when he retired, similar age to Shotzzy, because TENS felt like it made more sense, not stressing about practicing all the time, turning up and just streaming and making more money and all this. But it's not like Shotzzy's doing bad anyway, right? He's still got plenty of time to stream scrims if they want to. OpTic can just cruise through these qualifiers because their team is so good. Like, you know, why would Shotzzy retire at the absolute peak when OpTic are looking as good as they've looked for a long time and they've managed to find Merc, right? It doesn't really make much sense. And to me, because Shotzzy quote tweeted it with a broken heart thing, and people are like, oh, Shotzi's going to retire. It's rumored that he's going to retire and all this. I'm like, I don't know. Until I see it, I'm not convinced. But intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. The thing is, we then got Hitch in the replies and says news. Like, what do you mean? What kind of news? So, like, Hitch, he usually is a little bit sarcastic on the timeline. So, like, with Hitch saying something and with Zinni dropping the, what do you even call this emoji, grimacing face, it's telling me, I guess that's probably about right. With him dropping that, I don't know. If it was really an announcement like some people think, I don't imagine that these guys would be in the replies in the way that they are. But anyway, intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. We'll find out in a few hours' time. It's probably like a sponsor thing, isn't it? You know how it goes. That is more likely than not, but I don't know. Until it's confirmed, there's always that little concern that maybe there could be a bigger announcement that we might be expecting. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
Yeah, I still think Boston need a change.
What's going on with Shotzzy? What's going on with him?
The picture of him wearing a suit.
Yeah, he's looking like $1 million fucking dollars over here. Look at this guy. He's looking good.
What's a sponsor announcement, bro?
Oh, is it a sponsor announcement? Is that what it is? He's retiring. He's not retiring.
I suck my own dick live on stream.
Bro, there's no way he's retiring. I wonder what's going on.
Didn't Enable say that once, and then he like whatever happened.
Yeah.
Rubet Shotzzy?
Rubet Shotzzy.
March Mexico trip.
I mean, bro, that's crazy. I wonder what's going on. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but we'll keep you guys updated on that. But any other final thoughts, guys, on FaZe Vegas and Boston Breach? Any other final thoughts? All right, let me go into the next series of the day. It was a close one, guys. It was a close one here. We got the Miami Heretics going up against